I think what the Republicans have figured out quite astutely is what matters is a story. Okay? What matters is narrative in this world. It doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter if you contradict what you say, it doesn't even necessarily matter what your policies are. Are you selling yourself as a character, a lead character in a story that people want to hear? And what George Bush has done is sold himself as the lead character in sort of a perversity of democracy, as the regular guy, as the everyman. And I think that one of the reasons he's such a powerful symbol, and he's such a he fits that sort of celebrity image so well in his new reality TV show, which is, America, is that he genuinely is kind of a substandard guy. There's two ways to look at democracy. One is active participation within the political process, that everybody has a stake, and everybody can participate. The other way of looking at it, and this has been a sort of tension for the past 250 years, is that I'm just as good as the other guy, and the other guy should be just as good or as bad as me. The sort of anti-aristocratic sort of tenet of democracy. And I think he really speaks very eloquently in his bumbling way to that side of democracy. When they planned it, the show was 9/11 was the symbol of America being brought together and America being attacked and America being victimized. Okay? And the idea of America as a victim, and America that has to come together and defend itself, is a very powerful mobilizing force. The problem is that the families of 9/11, of course, don't like him. They feel that he's obfuscated their search for what really happened. The firemen don't particularly like him either, because they certainly haven't gotten anything out of the Bush administration. And on a local level, they really dislike our mayor because he's cutting back on firehouses.
And Bush promised billions of dollars that never happened.
Exactly. Exactly. And so those promises, the sort of domestic promises, are getting in the way, that didn't come through, are getting in the way of the sort of phantasmagoric story that he wants to tell. And so what I think is going to happen is that they're just going to try to remove New York. Because New Yorkers don't like George Bush. I mean, they vehemently don't like him.
I'm kind of looking forward to them coming here so we can have some FaceTime with them and harass them on the street. I'm calling it Operation Sand in Their Underwear.
Central Park is New York City's town commons, a traditional public forum that belongs to all the people of this city. What came to light in our court case, however, is that the City of New York and the Central Park Conservancy have made a secret, private deal to withdraw the park from public use. This is an outrage.
We don't need a permit for the park. I mean, we already have a permit. It's called the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights, which gives us the right of free speech and peaceful assembly. And that's all we're asking. And if you have a look at a picture, a photograph of Central Park, it's enormous.
What about the grass, though?
Hey, grass is for everybody. Grass is for people.
We want to thank New Yorkers for the extraordinary level of support you have shown us through the long struggle over the permit for this protest. We may have lost in court, but thanks to the massive public pressure on our behalf, we are pleased to announce that the city has finally come to the bargaining table and negotiated a sensible agreement with us for what will be an historic march against war and the Bush agenda that takes us through the heart of Manhattan.
The balance you spoke of just a little while ago, has that been lost here, in which the Holy Grail seems to have become getting to Central Park rather than ending the war?
Well, again, the struggle over Central Park is an important issue. It's not only a New York issue, and actually we believe is a national issue, and that is the issue of when and where people can gather in peaceful protest. We are concerned that through measures like the Patriot Act and other repressive actions that this administration has taken, it is harder and harder for people to gather in peaceful protest and make their opposition to government policies known.
The New York Police Department are smart. Okay? They understand that how you control a protesters, you control space. So what they're going to do is try to put us in pens and block us down, block us down, block us down.
I've never seen my country like this. I was at the February 15th, 2003 UN rally, and I was appalled about the metal pens and how they kept people in. And I climbed over it, I started yelling, "We're human beings, not animals!" And they didn't like that. They told me to move on. I said, "I supposedly fought in Vietnam for free speech, and you're telling me to move on? Arrest me already." and the cop backed away. Of course, I was arrested later anyway.
But these pens are all about control.
Sure it is, and that's not free speech.
It's just gotten worse. Every protest I go to, the pens become smaller. They, at a certain point, all the police look at one another and they make a move, and they move in the barriers, and you're crushed.
Keep moving down, folks! Keep moving, please! Folks, keep moving, please! You cannot stand in the streets. You have to get on the sidewalk.
All right. We are, honey. We are, honey. We love our man in uniform, by the way.
I mean, songs to entertain everybody.
Don't you feel so safe right now in New York streets, right? 3 officers at every street corner. That's how a real democracy looks like, right?
That's right.
We're like, we love it. We feel so safe.
Yes, it's just so wonderful for the New York Police Department to have run interference for us against those 500,000 First Amendment freaks.
Oh, exactly.
They are.
Giving us the sort of the entire lawn for ourselves.
New York's finest truly respects New York's finest dressed.
You know, some people like to say that if we're not laughing, we'd be crying. And I think there's some truth in that. I feel that the irony works very well here in New York. I think sometimes outside New York, the irony gets lost a bit. And sometimes people may get upset that they think that we're talking down and condescending. But I also think that it can work, and it can work very effectively what we like to call the aha moment. Because when people are confused by us and they don't understand exactly whether we're legitimately saying this or we're not quite really meaning it, they actually stop, they come up, they'll converse with us, maybe they'll read something, and this whole time their mind is open. They're actually listening and talking and conversing, and issues are being discussed, where if we were just sitting there holding a sign and screaming, no one's going to do that. People are going to cover their ears and walk away because they already feel like we know what the issues are, we know where we stand on it, and it's not worth it. So the aha moment, as we're doing this, when they realize they're not serious, they're being ironic, that's a good moment, because that's when the message has now gotten into them. Maybe it's changing, maybe it's not, maybe it's giving them food for thought. But you know, we've connected to somebody, and whether it's one person at a time or whether it happens in the media, because it's also another, I think, positive effect of what the billionaires have done, is the media seems to eat it up.
Ollie Gark is with us. He's a billionaire for Bush. Billionaires for Bush. It's a grassroots network of corporate lobbyists, decadent heiresses, Halliburton CEOs, and other winners under George W. Bush's economic policies, and you're headquartered down on Wall Street. Over 60 chapters nationwide. Tell me, how did this organization come to be?
Well, part of it was we realized that some of the wonderful advances we've made under George W. Are threatened if he doesn't get reelected. You know, I mean, the corporate welfare has been so fantastic for us. He really understands the needs of the upper 0.1%.
Welfare for the wealthy keeps our profits healthy.
Billionaires for Bush. It's absolutely a delight to be out here in the park on our pristine grass, preserved for us by the legal system, also bought and paid for by us. And it's just really magnificent to know that our money has ensured that this lovely lawn will be preserved for our croquet playing, our polo, our strolling, and it won't have any patches taken up by protesters, any mud, any ugliness. I mean, look at it, it's just gorgeous.
We actually were out there playing croquet on the Great Lawn. I don't know if you saw us. We were having a great time.
I thought that people were supposed to stay off the Great Lawn.
Yes, they were, and it's because, you know, hundreds of thousands of people wanted to express their First Amendment right, whatever. On the Great Lawn.
Yeah.
But we had actually, the real reason why, I don't know, you know, there were a lot of excuses. The real reason is that about 12 or 20 of us had reserved the Great Lawn we were all for privatizing public space, and we had reserved the Great Lawn to play a nice game of croquet, and so the city backed us up on it.
Have you secured the perimeter?
Yes, sir. We have some non-Fox News people here. If you'd like me to move them off.
Yes.
I'm sorry, gentlemen. If you could please step to the perimeter. This is a private party. This is a club. I don't see anyone with passes here. Please step off the lawn. Thank you.
What else do you have to report about the securing of the premises? It seems like there's not a single protester here.
Yes, we've done an admirable job of getting your employees off of your lawn, sir, but I think some of them still haven't gotten the message here. If you'd like, I can have a talk with them. I don't want to have to call any snipers in.
All right, and the Karl Rove, Bloomberg, NYPD, New York Parks Department, all on board, all taken care of, very good.
The police commissioner, the mayor, they were just trying to cover their heinies and say, well, look, we're just not going to let anybody use it.
Well, they used funny excuses like, we don't want you to stand on the grass because it'll die. I thought that was a good one.
This is absolutely a First Amendment free zone.
Fantastic. Is it a fee speech zone?
Absolutely,
You've
sir.
You've secured the fee speech zone. Fantastic.
Sir.
So you believe that the croquet and the badminton and the other lawn sports will proceed unhindered?
Absolutely, sir.
And how does our campaign to privatize the park, the Keep Off the Grass campaign to privatize the park, how is that going?
Well, publicly, I think that they're going to make some noise about it, but they're on board with us, sir.
This is a vision, ladies and gentlemen, of what Central Park will be like when we've privatized it completely.
That really is on the Bush agenda. Yes. They want to privatize all public space. And freedom of speech doesn't apply in private spaces. Like in a mall, you can be arrested, as we know, for doing the wrong thing.
Right, wearing the wrong T-shirt.
And the Constitution does not apply as well there. So there's a lot at stake here, not just whether or not people can play Frisbee when they want, but the more public spaces are privatized, and again, that's really the Bush agenda, the less we have our rights.
Public lands in private hands.
Huzzah!
Smile for the camera.
Whose media?
Our media.
What I love about controlling the media is we can actually turn things upside down whenever we need to. For example, you can take a ruling class person from Connecticut and make them into sort of a faux farmer type of guy from Texas, and then he's a populist kind of a figure, and it's wonderful. And you have people voting for him against anything that I can determine as their economic interests by the millions.
George Bush is helping to reduce our dependence on domestic labor.
Indeed.
There's a play here in town. I had the playwright on last week. The play is called I'm Going to Kill the President, a Federal Offense. Have you seen it?
I have not. I sent one of my servants to go see it, and he said it was pretty good, which upset me, so I fired him.
But you were probably going to end up sending that job overseas to India anyway, weren't you?
Well, some things you can't outsource. Everything we can, we're sending out. That's for sure. But someone to shine my shoes, I'm not going to FedEx my shoes over to India. I looked into this too. It takes too long, and you get your shoes back. But so there's certain menial jobs we will keep in America.
The people of this country have a right to a job!
We're having a national day of action. All of our 76 chapters across the country will be celebrating Cheap Labor Day, a day to lower the minimum wage.
Fantastic. We don't like having to outsource all our sweatshop labor abroad. We'd like to bring sweatshop labor right here to America.
That's right. Leave no child unemployed.
I want to ask you about the war right now. What do you think of that? What do you think there's a problem with it?
Well, it's enormously profitable. First of all, I mean, my family, we're mainly in diamonds, but we also do some war profiteering, and it's really a magnificent enterprise. We're, as Billionaires for Bush, calling, for 4 more wars so that we can expand and grow our profits even more.
Why do you think he's over there?
Well, to make us money.
How?
Well, by getting us incredibly lucrative no-bid contracts, by giving us access to large oil supplies in the Middle East.
In February of last year, before my unit was deployed to Kuwait, our first sergeant, a 20-year Marine Corps veteran, addressed us and told us the exact reasons we were going to war. He said, don't have any illusions, you're not going to be heroes. You're not going over there to get rid of Saddam Hussein, to find weapons of mass destruction, to make Iraq safe for democracy. You're going there for one reason alone, and that's oil. But he went on and said, but the real reason you're going to go over is because you signed a contract that said you would follow the orders that you were given. And also, more importantly, you have an obligation to make sure everyone you serve with, all of your friends, people you've known for years, come home alive. And that's the exact reason Iraq Veterans Against War will be marching on Sunday. make sure all of our comrades in arms come home now, and they come home alive, and not another life is lost in this war for oil. Thank you.
War is good for profiteers, Bush and Cheney for more years.
Top 5 items on your agenda this year. Looking forward.
Looking forward, we want to continue our platform and the massive gains we've made. So we're thinking about just privatizing war, just come out of the shell. And we're going to have Halliburton invade some countries directly. Okay. Just be subsidized. Because it's a way, why the charade at this point?
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. We make money when there's war. 5, 6, 7, 8. Halliburton's really great.
We want to let corporations run directly for office. Again, why pretend? You know, this is like silly little games we're playing here. So just let, you know, Exxon run for senator, you know.
People talk about the price of gas. I say, tell my chauffeur.
$1, one vote. Why does one person, one vote? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
I'm a little offended, actually.
So, you know, there's been a lot of criticism since George W. was elected the first time. Some people are a little upset about the electoral college process because the popular vote didn't prevail. Bush isn't a very popular guy. You wouldn't expect it to prevail. But the electoral college, you feel good about this?
Oh, I mean, the more distance, the more structures you can have between the hoi polloi and the results, the better, obviously. I mean, just to be honest with you. I mean, there are countries that have proportional representation, automatic registration of everybody, so they don't have to specially register. We're really one of the few countries where people have to actually specifically register or they can't vote. That suppresses the vote. We like things that suppress the vote.
I understand that you have a collection of radio ads and songs from billionaires that you are putting together and that are available on the Billionaires for Bush website.
That's right.
Tell us about that.
That's right. We've got a CD and a book, in fact, that people can order. If you go to our website, which you mentioned, billionairesforbush.com, there are songs to download. There's a CD to order, a wonderful book to order about how to control the world for fun and profit, which includes George W. Bush, an owner's manual as part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that with all the money you guys collectively have, that you could get George like some sort of remedial speaking class or something?
Well, you know, at first it's kind of funny, actually.
Or is that just a big ploy, as I thought it was, to make people think that he's just kind of dumb and simple like other people?
Yeah, I mean, there is that populist thing that we like to play with now. I mean, it's wonderful that you can have a scion of the upper 1% like me, who has had every advantage, like me, and who then can somehow come across through this sort of performance, public performance, as a populist figure.
I understand that yesterday you were among those protesting here in New York.
We were...
In a matter of speaking.
Thank you. In a matter of speaking, that's right. I mean, we were there to show our agenda. I mean, there's all these, you know, unwashed masses protesting. We were just trying to present our point of view, because who cares about the upper 0.1%, except if we don't do it for ourselves. If not us, who?
I'm a little surprised that you're not ready and willing, you Bush guys, that you're not ready and willing to let gay people get married. Well, what is that? Is there a financial implication to that?
Well, it's not so much financial. It's just good strategy. If you can divide up the people, this is just between you and me, right? This is our strategy.
Just between us.
Okay. The deal is, really, there's more of them than there are of us. And if we can divide them in any way possible, then we have to. I'm talking about race, class, you know, sexual preference, whatever it is. So we like to beat the drum once in a while on this. As many of us are gay as any other group. You know?
Well, it's interesting. In the last half hour, we've seen the first couple of sightings of people of color at the convention here in New York. And why is it that you're not willing to spread that wealth, let more people of color, more minorities be among the 1,000 families?
Well, I mean, if they could, the thing is, to get that wealthy, the best way to do it is to inherit it. I mean, that's what I did. And that's why we're against this inheritance tax. You know, a lot of people talk about the death tax, and that's what we call it. And what I like about using that phrase is it makes a lot of other people say, well, I'm going to die. Does that mean I'm going to get taxed? And it's fantastic, because really it's the upper 1,000 families.
Because only the upper 1,000 families realize that once they're gone, that they actually can't be having to write any checks from the afterlife.
Well, I mean, I personally like the Pharaoh's idea, and I'm going to see if I can get in on that action and have a nice pyramid for myself.
Where will you be having dinner tonight?
Oh, I'll be having dinner. You know, the thing is, we have special access. So I call it the access of evil, but Republicans have access everywhere, all over the city. So I'll be, you know, we're going to be all over the city, basically eating at the finest places, where they don't let in the, you know, hoi polloi.
billionairesforbush.com. Thank you very much for coming in and joining us, Ollie.
I think from the Democratic National Convention till now, they seem to be looking for lots of news stories, and the billionaires have been a part of it. And it's not just billionaire satire, it's billionaires, people who pretend to be the elite and show how the economic policies favor them at the expense of everybody else. And that is something that gets repeated and repeated and repeated, and if that's the way to get into the media, you know, it's effective, I'm all for it.
We're putting together something called Circa, which is the clandestine insurgent rebel clown army.
It's basically to poke fun, a way to be involved that's not an angry, screaming protest. Because when you get angry, people can shut you down so easily. It's like, oh, you're angry. But if you're engaging them with humor, they like, what are you saying? You know, what's their angle?
I'm going to give you one of our manifestos that I put together for the event. Sure. We are mostly
Clown Army?
Yes.
We the clowns, jesters and tricksters of the clandestine insurgent rebel clown army are delighted to host the Republican National Clown Convention in our fair city of New York.
We are so gratified that the radical right has brought their grand circus to our humble town, and we are eager to attend. We are particularly inspired by the head clown, W, a fool of globe-crushing power. W is a truly talented trickster, transforming his ruling class wastrel life story into a faux farmer media persona, creating false WMDs and conjuring fake connections to Al-Qaeda to justify the invasion of Iraq, giving speeches before false backdrops of Made in USA boxes to herald the comeback of the economy he has despoiled for his inner circle's gain. And now he and his circus come to co-opt the memory of 9/11 and turn our city's trauma into their triumphalism. He's extremely funny, though we think he may be taking his tragic joke too far. The key moment for Circa was his fabulous flight suit appearance on the aircraft carrier, where he angled the cameras so the nearby San Diego shoreline could not be seen, where he converted his draft dodging into pseudo-heroism, where he took the debacle of an unnecessary war and occupation and summed it up with mission accomplished. What a fantastic clown! Circa wishes to express its admiration for the horrific hijinks of W the Uber Clown by dressing in flight suits and strutting our thumbs-up stuff on the streets of Manhattan. We will imitate our hero by playing soldier and playing golf while Rome burns. If we also pretend to indulge in his narcotic pastimes of times past, it is only in flattering imitation of our great leader.
Whoa! That's good now. I'm ready to send your kid to war now.
Our credentials are clear. Our hearts are open. Our flight suit crotches are bulging. We are here to attend the convention and lovingly declare, mission accomplished.
There's weapons of mass destruction in here. There's weapons of mass destruction. Oh, no, sorry, didn't got it.
Just to expose the hypocrisy of that moment with a little street theater intervention. And it seemed to go over pretty well. I mean, a lot of people really got what we were getting at.
Showing up the clownishness of this administration.
The standard wonk take on all this is that there's 10%, 8% swing voters, okay, that don't know which way they're going to vote. That is smaller than it's ever been in history, okay, since they started talking about swing voters. And everybody's competing for the middle. I think they're all wrong. I actually think that that middle is going to split 4-4 or 3-5, and we're talking about 1% or 2%, okay? I think the real place to go after voters is the people that don't vote. And we're talking 65 to 50% of the people in this country don't vote. So how does this fit into sort of the arch-ironic clown army, which is obviously not competing for that middle 10%? It's because a fair amount of people that don't vote are urbane hipsters who basically, you know, watch MTV, watch The Daily Show, and then don't bother to go out and vote because all these people are idiots, okay? They don't like the left because the left has no sense of humor. They don't like the politicians because the politicians are just corrupt. And this population is potentially 2 or 3% of the people that are not voting, okay? And I actually think that you got to appeal to those people. And I think this election's going to be won not by the middle, but by bringing people in to vote from the left or from liberals that have not voted, who have just decided I'm not going to go out and vote. And them deciding it because they hate Bush or because they see something in the Democratic Party or the protesters that say, hey, I kind of like those people. They're fun. I think I can sign up to that, or at least I can go and vote for once.
Empires fall!
Fool me once!
Shame on you!
Fool me you one!
Don't get fooled again!
Left sneer!
Rarely is the question asked, is our children learning?
Rarely is the question asked.
Is our children learning? It's fun to party with B-U-S-H. It's fun to snorkel with B-U-S-H. You can't take the high horse and then claim the low road.
Hear them! 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 Mission complicated, y'all!
We have here the marriage of a group of clowns, and they are marrying the top clown, George Bush. I would like everyone here to do what they can to support this relationship of these absurd, murderous clowns. May they go off in the sunset together and have a long relationship. Perhaps we can send these last of the lovers of George Bush off to a kind of homestead in the middle of nowhere so that they can stop killing us, so that they can stop exploiting us, so that they can stop killing innocent children.
You're not going to stop that. That's fun.
I know that they hired me to marry them, but I'm becoming so disgusted with these clowns. These militaristic bastards, Republicans, you're idiots. You're killers.
I'm running, but I'm not going anywhere.
If you know anyone who needs to get down there, head down.
I've just been told that the police are now arresting hundreds of people in the Herald Square area. If any of you want to make a cell phone call to a loved one, or if there's anything you should do, apparently that's begun.
I just helped them to make a decision about whether or not they wanted to participate in activities downtown in an area in which there have been arrests, in which there is a much greater police presence than there was earlier in the day. So they made a decision that they're going to stay up in this area in Central Park, where we expect many more people from downtown to be arriving shortly.
What was your advice to them?
I didn't give them any advice. I told them about what the conditions were that they could expect to find down there, and that it was likely that they would be arrested if they went down there, and then I let them make their decision.
Our consensus is to stay here and do things here.
Amen. Let's do something around these people here.
He wants us to go down there and get arrested, doesn't he?
Smoke them out. Get arrested.
Yeah.
I want to arrest all
Evildoers.
these Democrats.
Oh, yeah.
Evildoers.
NBC News In Depth tonight, a question. With political events and political protests more tightly controlled than ever, what's the line between free speech and security threat? NBC's Mike Taibbi takes a closer look at some recent controversial crackdowns on political protest.
During a New Jersey appearance by First Lady Laura Bush, the mother of a son killed in Iraq disrupts the event and is removed from the room.
understandable to many, and then is arrested by police outside the room, to many much less understandable.
You know that I'm not obstructing it.
A solitary protester on an empty sidewalk, arrested.
We're now going to be placed under arrest.
A ticket-holding couple at a public venue presidential visit quietly revealing their thinking, arrested. Peaceful protesters herded far from the Democratic convention in Boston and arrested by the hundreds and sent to a holding pen during the Republican convention in New York, some held without arraignment for 3 days. And then there's Ben Shepard. The Bronx social worker and some fellow anti-war protesters like to dress up in costumes and clown makeup to conduct performance protests.
I mean, we were pretty silly.
But on the morning before one of those performances, 2 plainclothes detectives stopped him on his way to work.
And said, Mr. Shepard, there's a warrant out for your arrest.
He says he was held for 10 hours, questioned by Homeland Security and FBI agents, and ultimately charged with illegal stickering to promote his next performance, which never did take place. The American Civil Liberties Union calls it preventive detention and arrest.
To prevent people from going to demonstrations or to protests in the first place.
Veteran anti-war protester Ed Hedeman agrees.
We were not going to confront police officers.
Observing that his group's attempt at a peaceful, lawful march on August 31st got about a half block before the nets came down anyway. He says he was held for 47 hours.
We didn't have that kind of detention and arrest in the past.
No one from the Justice Department would comment for this story, though a former Assistant Attorney General and one of the co-authors of the Patriot Act told NBC News lawful dissent is being zealously protected by the Bush administration, though mistakes may have been made in some cases.
In times of national insecurity, there is a natural inclination in order to think more in terms of safety rather than civil liberties.
Ben Shepard and his fellow clowns a safety risk?
I've never, ever thought I had to worry about watching my back around doing activism. Now I do.
And now, say critics, if dissent is being stifled, so is the public debate it's intended to stimulate. Mike Taibbi, NBC News, New York.
When I first heard that we were going to war, we were definitely going to war, the first thing that struck me and gave me grief and almost made me cry was just thinking about babies and mothers and families, just like you and me, that just want food on the table and to pay their rent and to live well with one another. And I don't understand how Americans or people, humans, can separate themselves from someone else on the planet suffering.
Being a Vietnam vet is like deja vu all over again. I mean, we got a president who lied to us, got us into an illegal war, and their body bags coming home every damn week.
That's also why I was so charged and so drawn in by the idea of 1,000 coffins, because it's something that brings that empathy and compassion to you and says, wow, I can kind of imagine, I can put myself in that place and say, wow, what if that was my son or my daughter coming home, or my father or brother or sister.
When the first coffin started rolling back, they pulled a very swift stunt to classify any photograph of an American troop's coffin. There was no way people could see the actual effects of the war that they had declared.
We're cut off from something that's happening across the world and to our own.
Which is why the administration banned it, which was why we decided we wanted to try to do something about that. So we came up with a plan.
About showing the censored image of the American coffins coming home.
Make our own coffins, put the flag over it, make one for every dead American.
Thinking that would incite some sort of visceral response, a deep, mournful response.
Parade them in the largest image we could. Then people can judge for themselves. That's what we figured, but we wanted that image to be out there for people to make their own mind. A sea of bodies is one thing, but a picture of 1,000 coffins covered in American flags, we knew was going to be something that the cameras would turn to take pictures of.
People were really moved, more moved than they could have imagined. We can say, oh, we're going to do this, but when it actually happens and it's right in front of them, they can't walk away without having some sort of reaction.
It was extremely gripping, And as a consequence, photos of our part of the march made the front pages of newspapers throughout the world.
I think there are a lot more street theater events that have been happening in opposition to this administration that have really sprung up.
There's absolutely. I mean, they're tactical cultural interventions.
One of the reasons I think that culture has become such a big part of this sort of professional activist cadre is it keeps us doing it. It's hard to be earnest all the time because there's just too much disappointment.
It's an urgent time. It's not, you know, we can't 5 years from now look back and go, gosh, I wish all of us had been protesting.
If you have sort of fun when you're doing activism, this is my social life. This is my performative life. This is my creative outlet, okay? As I get to, you know, I get to get together with a bunch of people, we drink beer, we come up with these great skits, and then we go out and do them. And it's really a lot of fun.
When somebody feels very alone in what they're feeling about the nature of our government today, that when they see a crowd of people that feel similarly, suddenly there's a safety in those numbers.
Where people can mingle with other people. Oh, you're from New Jersey. You got a group over there.
And there's a camaraderie that is really energizing rather than deflating.
I actually think that the culture aspect of it really allows new people to come in that it's much easier to enter into sort of a cultural space because we're used to swapping cultures all the time. Politics for Americans is still something that other people do. Culture is something we all do. And so when you mix sort of culture and politics, I always think of it, it's a much easier step in to some sort of engagement. And that's one of the reasons I think cultural activism is flourishing in the past 10 years. Or cultural infused activism. Because it's not activism about culture. It's activism using culture as a tool.
Whether it's political art or just art for art's sake, people are surprised often by how they're taken in and how they identify with what an artist is speaking of or conveying in their work. So in the same way, I think art has the advantage. It's kind of a sneaky way to get somebody to go, oh gosh, I suddenly understand.
We have far fewer resources than they do, obviously. I don't have my own Fox News to just spout my line whenever I want to, you know? But we try to make these sort of small, low or no budget cultural acts of resistance that, you know, again, will kind of pop the bubble of their symbolism a little bit with a little counter symbolism.
You have the resources you have, and you have the rules of the psychology of the media.
The media wants something which is going to be funny and light, or they want something violent and dramatic. Ideologically and personally, I don't do, you know, violence anymore. But I can do funny. Yeah, I'm 40 years old, a tenured college professor. I'm going to dress as a fucking clown and come to this.
The way it works is, what's going to make a better image? Where are these? Why are you doing a protest? To be seen. How do you get the protest seen? You use the same means that people in advertising use, that people who promote anything use, that people in TV entertainment use.
It's you know, eye candy, activist eye candy.
Shout in the name of war, you need a whole lot more.
And if you don't think about doing that and instead just have sort of a random sea of bodies, if you don't try to find the best way to make your point, then it's a lot of effort that's not used to its full potency.
Speaking of real serious politics, but this is serious play. So it's play, but it's serious, but it is playful. And that makes it kind of fun. And you really do feel sometimes that you're opening some people up. And it can be kind of entertaining.
The day after the election, either Bush is going to get elected and we're all going to move to Canada or Cuba, or the second thing that's going to happen is, well, no, if Bush gets elected, we'll continue doing what we're doing. If Kerry gets elected, we'll continue what we're doing. Because one of the key things here is that, and Michael Moore said this, you know, quite well, is he said, you know, look, I'm just going to go after Kerry as soon as Kerry gets elected.
I've been protesting stupid policies ever since I got out in '68.
There's a part of me that always wanted to live in Europe because it just seems much more free. There's just a stronger respect for the arts. At the same time, I know this is my country. This is my country. And if there's stuff that's wrong with it, I want to help fix it. I'm not going to run away.